Does the world seem dark these days? I wish I could make the sun come up. Until it does, we have another option. It's time for us to shine. Hey there, I'm Joshua Johnson, and the nightlight is on. Here we are, episode 1. Yay! I'm so glad you're here for a unique new show about democracy, about learning to live together in a rapidly changing world. Each week, we'll talk to people who put connection above politics, and I'll bring you my thoughts on today's big issues. Tonight, let's break down the latest controversy involving podcaster Joe Rogan. It has some folks debating the value of debating, especially when conspiracy theories are a factor. Personally, I think debating is the wrong answer, but so is disengaging. There's a better way. I always love to hear from you. Email joshua@nightlightshow.com. I'm on social media @JoshuaListening, or reach out on my website, nightlightshow.com. This is my first episode. Maybe someday I'll make it to 500 shows or 1,000. Joe Rogan just released the 2,000th episode of his podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience. That is a huge achievement. But all people have been talking about was episode 1,999. His guest, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., often criticized for spreading hoaxes and conspiracy theories. Now he's running for the Democratic nomination to be President of the United States.
I wanted to be a scientist when I was a little kid. And my life, my legal career has been about science. It's, virtually all the cases that I've been involved with, hundreds and hundreds of cases, almost all of them involve some scientific controversy.
For 3 hours, they covered a wide array of topics, including a number of wild claims. For example, at one point, Mr. Kennedy claimed that Wi-Fi causes cancer. He presented no hard evidence, and Mr. Rogan went along with it.
Wi-Fi radiation does all kinds of bad things, including causing cancer.
Wi-Fi radiation causes cancer?
Yeah, from your cell phone. I mean, there's cell phone tumors. I'm representing hundreds of people who have cell phone tumors behind the ear. It's always on the ear that you favor with your cell phone. We have the science. So if anybody lets us in front of a jury, it will be over.
So what is the number? Because a lot of people use
There's
cell
a lot of
phones.
people with it. They're glioblastomas. That's the kind of cancers that they get. But cancer's not the worst thing. They also, it opens up, Wi-Fi radiation opens up your blood-brain barrier. And so all these toxins that are in your body can now go into your brain.
How does Wi-Fi radiation open up your blood-brain barrier?
Yeah, now you're gone beyond my expertise.
Democracy depends on a free flow of trustworthy information. These days, the public trusts their information sources less. Consider the latest findings from the University of Chicago's General Social Survey. Researchers ask about a wide range of opinions, including how much confidence people have in various institutions. When it comes to the scientific community, 38% of adults in the U.S. said they have a great deal of confidence. The year before, it was 48%, a 10 percentage point drop in just 1 year. Now, that's among the whole population. People who identified as Republican were least likely to express great confidence. Only 22% did. Democrats expressed the strongest support. Independents were right in the middle. The General Social Survey also shows that Republicans are trending more conservative, Democrats more liberal, Independents a bit less liberal but more moderate. Hey, one more tidbit from that survey, and perhaps we'll come back to this in a future episode. It's a side note, not too relevant to today, but I think it's interesting, and maybe you will too. The survey also breaks down by other demographics, including age. Among young people, ages 18 to 34, the percentage of self-described conservatives is up, sharply, up from 21% to 30% in just 1 year. Now, young adults still tend to be more liberal, but that self-described group, young adult liberals, shrank 4 percentage points in a year. Young adult moderates were down 6 points. Just throwing that out there. Maybe we'll talk about it another time, but I find that interesting. Anyway, all of this speaks to the deepening divides in our country. Bridging political divides, that's hard enough. Now we've got a fact-fiction divide, too. When RFK Jr. appeared on the Joe Rogan Experience, he got a ton of blowback for the many hoaxes he spread, including from someone I've interviewed before.
Dr. Peter Hotez is the co-director of the Center for Vaccine Development at Texas Children's Hospital. He is also the dean at the National School of Tropical Medicine at the Baylor College of Medicine. Dr. Hotez, welcome back. Good to see you again.
Great to see you, Joshua. Glad you're feeling better.
I am so glad that I'm feeling better, too, especially to talk to you about this news. Tell us about
I interviewed Dr. Peter Hotez last year when I was an anchor for NBC News. He's part of the team at Baylor College of Medicine that worked on low-cost COVID vaccines for developing countries. And he became a convenient red herring to RFK Jr.'s supporters, a perfect distraction from the issue at hand. Now, I do not want to dwell on the spitting match that followed Joe Rogan's conversation with Mr. Kennedy, but some things do need to be cleared up. At the very least, this might help you talk to someone who may have gotten bad information. First, a little background. There are many kinds of coronaviruses. Some of them can make your pet sick. Some of them can cause a common cold. Others can kill you, like SARS and MERS. By the time COVID-19 came along, researchers had been studying coronaviruses for a long time. Our vaccines came from years of monitoring these viruses. It only seemed like they came out of nowhere. Here in the U.S., we use medications from large pharmaceutical companies, Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson. They were not free. The federal government bought billions of dollars of doses. That is different than the work Dr. Hotez did. He worked on a vaccine called Corbavax, but not for a big drug company. And his team released their results without patents, publishing the data online for anyone to use. Now, why does that matter? Because the patent for a drug is intellectual property. It's like a movie or a song or a novel. Most drug companies would never release a brand new vaccine without patenting it. Patents equal profits. However, Corbavax was released freely to the world. Countries like India and Indonesia were able to produce the drugs themselves. Dr. Hotez discussed it last May in conversation with the Rotary Club of Silicon Valley. He says developing nations started reaching out to his team when they realized that the premium vaccines, the ones the U.S. paid billions for, were not coming their way.
They contacted us, and the fact that we were able to do this without a patent, as I'd like to say, when your house is on fire, you don't call the patent attorney first, you call the fire department. So we wanted to be the fire department. And we started working on that pretty quickly.
Studies have shown that Corbavax is safe and effective on a number of COVID variants, including as a booster for people who took a different vaccine first. And when did this work on fighting coronaviruses begin? In 2011, with a federal grant to fight SARS and MERS. Researchers believed then that some new disease would come along sooner or later, and they were right. Baylor University says now it's designing new vaccines to fight multiple kinds of coronaviruses. Look, I get why some folks were super skeptical of the COVID vaccines. I mean, they seemed to come out of nowhere, worked extremely well, they were available for free, and every doctor and scientist who went on TV insisted that people take them immediately. I get it. The journalists I worked with put out the best information we had as fast as we could. We shifted our reporting as new findings emerged. That is how science works. It's not a gospel on a stone tablet. It's designed to correct itself when a critical mass of better information emerges. That's a critical mass, not a couple of guys who call their podcasts their proof. One of my first assignments at MSNBC was to answer people's questions about COVID early in the pandemic. I spent many days doing that on air, including my 40th birthday.
Before we do anything, please remember, our guests are going to give you their best answers based on their expertise and on what we know right now. But what we know can and will change, and nothing that anyone on this program says can substitute for the guidance of your financial advisor or your doctor on your specific situation. Having said that, joining us now alongside Ron and Sana is CNBC personal.
On that day, I was one of the very few people at 30 Rock. Me, a skeleton technical crew, a handful of security guards, a few custodians. It was like I Am Legend, but we were the zombies. My birthday dinner was left outside my door at home. A 16-ounce center-cut prime ribeye medium rare, sautéed Brussels sprouts, and lobster macaroni and cheese. Hey, if you're going to have birthday dinner during the apocalypse, eat well, right? Dr. Hotez did many interviews to give his expert view on the pandemic, and that made him a prime target for anti-vaccine conspiracy theorists. It also gained him fans among the many people who appreciated the clarity. Unfortunately, the former group has been much louder than the latter, but do not let their insanity convince you that rational people are just outnumbered. That group is not larger, just louder. I believe that people of good conscience do not need to speak louder. We need to hit harder. What we're doing now to combat misinformation, division, hatred, and fear is not working. It's just not getting results. I believe there is a better way, and it has nothing to do with debating conspiracy theorists.
Anti-vaccine disinformation, it's always done a lot of damage and harm, but now it's a lethal force in the United States, and that's why we have to have that discussion. And I offered to come and go on Joe Rogan again. I've been on a couple of times and have that discussion with him, but not to turn it into the Jerry Springer show with having RFK Jr. on.
That was Dr. Hotez speaking with Mehdi Hassan on MSNBC. He's responding to this tweet from Joe Rogan sent soon after his interview with RFK Jr. Quote, "Peter, if you claim what RFK Jr. is saying is misinformation, I am offering you $100,000 to the charity of your choice if you're willing to debate him on my show with no time limit." Unquote. Since then, others have offered even more money. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. then tweeted, quote, "Peter, let's finally have the respectful, congenial, informative debate that the American people deserve." Unquote. The doctor replied, quote, "Joe, you have my cell, my email. I'm always willing to speak with you." Unquote. Rogan's response, quote, "This is a non-answer. I challenged you publicly because you publicly quote tweeted and agreed with that dog shit Vice article." Oh, sidebar. Mr. Rogan is referring to an article from Vice.com calling out Spotify for not cracking down harder on vaccine misinformation. Dr. Hotez quote tweeted that article. Rogan's tweet goes on, quote, "If you're really serious about what you stand for, you now have a massive opportunity for a debate that will reach the largest audience a discussion like this has ever had. If you think someone else is better qualified, suggest that person." Unquote. Then Twitter's owner, Elon Musk, chimed in, replying, quote, "He's afraid of a public debate because he knows he's wrong." Unquote. Twitter, like all social networks, is designed for engagement, not results. You're not supposed to finish what you're doing and go live your life. You're supposed to live your life through social media and never stop. The arguing has not stopped either, and as the days wore on, the challenges gave way to threats. One article from InfoWars referred to Dr. Hotez as a globalist gremlin. Globalist is a coded term often used to refer to Jews in the conspiratorial sense of secretly running the world. Dr. Hotez is Jewish. An ammunition company based in Michigan tweeted that the doctor, quote, "should be treated similarly to doctors that experimented on Jews during the Holocaust," unquote. That tweet included a picture of a bag of 9mm bullets. Printed at the bottom of the bag, "Dr. Hotez is a war criminal." So what now? What do we do with all this? Well, I could go point by point debunking Joe Rogan's podcast, denouncing the people who have threatened Dr. Hotez, and disputing the value of debating RFK Jr. That first one has been done extensively. I'll share a link or two online at nightlightshow.com. The second one feels a little obvious, though I do have a small angle to add. I'm much more fascinated by that third part, the escalation by Mr. Rogan himself. To me, this feels like the fight between the Walt Disney Company and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. I mean, Disney criticized one state law, the one that critics refer to as the Don't Say Gay bill. Governor DeSantis responded by stripping Disney of its self-governing status. If you don't know what that means, basically, Disney World is more like Disney County. It collects taxes, it builds utilities, it runs a public safety department, and more. That spares local taxpayers from bearing all the costs of the resort's upkeep. The state of Florida negotiated that deal with Walt Disney himself. Governor DeSantis repealed it after a single public critique. Critique, then crackdown. Dr. Hotez received unprovoked attacks online after the podcast episode came out, then quote tweeted one article from Vice. In response, Joe Rogan is pushing him to debate on hostile ground, and others are piling on. Critique, crackdown. As for that challenge to debate, I find it hard to take seriously. I mean, debate on Joe Rogan's podcast with no time limit, no clear sense of the rules or the goals of the debate, and he gives money to charity? That would be like me challenging you to go fight someone nonstop, which means punch until someone's dead. And then I give a bunch of money to charity to make myself look like a philanthropist. Would you take that deal? Would you watch that fight? And if you would watch, what would you really be watching for? The fact is, debates need constraints. They force you to be clear, concise, and compelling. Letting a guest talk endlessly is the mark of an amateur. Don't you deserve better than that? It also sets up Dr. Hotez to have to uphold his reputation as a scientist, while his opponent has a much lower bar to clear. Winning would look very different for each of them, so the debate is inherently unfair. And if Joe Rogan is moderating, we cannot expect him to call out bad information and make his guest address it quickly. If a guest cannot justify what they just said in a few seconds, then they probably don't know what they're talking about. But for future reference, here are 10 ways to question a guest on something funky or false. Write these down, Joe. How do you know this? What is this based on? Who would corroborate what you just said? What is your one strongest piece of evidence for this? When did this belief crystallize for you? Where did you get this information? How would I verify this if I never heard it from you? What evidence would your critics point to, and how would you refute it? What do you gain by convincing me that you're right? And one more. Who told you this, and what makes you believe them? The more you know. Perhaps the worst part is that RFK Jr.'s actions contradict the wisdom of his father, or perhaps his inaction. Senator Robert F. Kennedy wrote a collection of essays called The Pursuit of Justice. In it, he wrote, quote, "What is objectionable, what is dangerous about extremists is not that they are extreme, but that they are intolerant. The evil is not what they say about their cause, but what they say about their opponents." Unquote. This year marks 55 years since Senator Kennedy was shot at the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles. He had just won California's Democratic primary. He died the next day. Senator Kennedy's legacy is one of thoughtfulness, connection, civility, and love. Today, his son is doing worse than just spreading falsehoods. He is also silent on the hateful, violent threats against his critics, against people like Dr. Peter Hotez. Is that the Kennedy legacy? Meeting intolerance with inaction? Would his father approve? Perhaps there are no options to confront this misinformation with the truth. Debate appears impossible. But what if there's another choice? What if there is something more useful to you than screaming into the abyss of social media? Is it possible to make an impact in ways that honor both the truth and your humanity? I created this show to address these challenges in ways that I believe will work. In the weeks and months to come, I want to explore today's big issues, answer your questions about them, and search for solutions. Let's consider what might do some good and how we can do good wherever we are. There is one tactic in particular I wish more people would use. It seems especially relevant now in June, as we celebrate LGBTQ Pride Month. I'll explain just ahead. Stay close. If you're enjoying the Nightlight so far, consider showing your support by becoming a paid subscriber. You know, this is meant to be more than just a show. It's meant to be a community for people like you, people who want to be part of building a better world for everyone, people who put connection above politics. Mainstream media is not doing it, and social media seems incapable, so we've got to build it ourselves. I've spent 20 years doing this work, and now I'm free to do it in new ways with no one to answer to but you. So, come be my boss. Some of the benefits of becoming a paid subscriber include access to all of my posts on Substack and the ability to leave comments. You get all the podcasts and videos ad-free and early. You can engage by text, audio, or video, including on YouTube live streams. There'll be a monthly Q&A episode where you can ask me anything, and you'll get bonus episodes and content throughout the year. Also, consider subscribing at a higher level as a founding member. In addition to those other paid benefits, you get a complimentary gift and a quarterly check-in live with me. To subscribe, go to nightlightshow.com. You can also get limited access as a free subscriber. Whatever you choose to do, sign up now at nightlightshow.com. Thanks. This is The Nightlight. I'm Joshua Johnson. How do we protect democracy from disinformation and dumb debates? A recent episode of the Joe Rogan Experience gave Robert F. Kennedy Jr. another platform to spread bad information about vaccines. Mr. Kennedy is running for the Democratic presidential nomination. It's easy to default to fighting bad information with good information. And let me be clear, I believe there's a need for that. We should not let lies and hoaxes just go unchallenged. Obviously not. Having said that, I believe there's even more we can do. It may be just as important as the larger debates we're having. And unlike these larger debates, this could actually make a real impact in real time. But you gotta have the guts to say something really uncomfortable. Nope. Even more uncomfortable than that. I'll explain with another ongoing controversy, one that seems to keep coming up every few years, right around election time.
We're winning in Florida against gender ideology. It is not in our schools. I just signed legislation saying teachers are not allowed to demand pronouns from the kids. I had Walt Disney World come down on me and fight me on that. All these other Republicans are actually taking the side of Disney. They're criticizing me for standing up to Disney because they're a big, powerful company and all this other stuff.
This week, the Christian Broadcasting Network aired an interview with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. He's gained a reputation for attacking progressive ideology with conservative policy backed by a GOP-controlled legislature. That fight with Disney is just one ongoing battle with Florida's LGBTQ community. It is a frequent target of Republican presidential candidates, including the governor. I grew up in South Florida during the 80s. I can only imagine what my life would be like if I had grown up in this political climate, viscerally aware that the state disliked me, viscerally aware that other children were more acceptable than me. What we now call Pride did not start as a celebration, but as a protest. Not a parade, but a march. And lately, the community has had a lot to protest about.
Our children are listening, and they are in danger. In fact, today, transgender youth are among the most at risk of homelessness, depression, and death by suicide. So when these young people who are already struggling hear politicians amplify hateful rhetoric that denies their very existence, what message does it send?
This week on Capitol Hill, the Senate Judiciary Committee held a hearing on protecting the LGBTQ community. The hearing was largely about children who are being targeted by a wave of legislation. This week, federal judges in Florida and Arkansas struck down those states' laws banning gender-affirming care. These treatments may involve things like counseling or hormone therapies to manage the onset of puberty. Surgery is quite rare, especially before the child has turned 18. According to the Human Rights Campaign, about 20 states have bans on gender-affirming care. More than 20 have bans against transgender people competing in certain sports. No wonder HRC recently declared its first national state of emergency for LGBTQ Americans. The group's president, Kelly Robinson, spoke at the hearing.
This is creating a culture of fear and harm that's directly targeted at some of our most vulnerable, the LGBTQ plus community and trans youth. We should all see what's happening for the moral crisis that it is and know that because the attack is coming to trans youth today doesn't mean that that target can't be placed on someone else's back next week. This is a threat not
to engage with people,
but for us all.
So how do you deal with this threat? Argue with homophobes and transphobes one by one on Twitter? I have neither the time nor the Tylenol, but I believe there is a better option, especially where children are concerned. Not an argument, just a question. It has to do with the claim that distancing children from the community spares them from being sexualized at too young an age. That's the rationale for everything from bans on drag shows to removing certain books from libraries. But let me tell you, the last thing that activated my sexuality as a pubescent boy was anything gay. When I was a kid, gay stuff was not sexy. It was silly. American pop culture has been full of effeminate stereotypes of gay men, especially gay black men. When you get a minute, go on YouTube and search for "in living color, men on film." You'll see what I mean. Now, if you are a gay boy who likes fashion, for example, then seeing fashion might activate your love of it. But that's not the same as discovering what you are sexually attracted to. For me, and for a lot of other gay men, the things that awakened our gayness were as straight as it gets, hetero on steroids. And I do mean...
Long before there was reality TV shows, there was American Gladiator.
The 80s were full of macho energy, including the syndicated game show American Gladiators. ESPN just did a documentary about the series.
These games were not safe for humans to play.
It was a given that they were all on steroids.
American Gladiators enthralled me. 4 contestants, 2 men, 2 women, would take on a rotating cast of juiced up, bulked out athletes in a series of insane physical challenges. The arena looked like a Chuck E. Cheese with all the tunnels and the rope ladders and the ball pit and the slide and the jungle gym, but the size of a basketball court. The gladiators had these stage names like Nitro, Titan, Thunder, and Malibu. Malibu had long blonde hair, obviously. I was in elementary school when American Gladiators was on the air. As a kid, it's hard to know why things captivate you. They just do. But seeming too eager about anything is a surefire way to get picked on, to get called a nerd or a geek. To be called out over something I felt this intensely was unthinkable. I mean, literally, I had no context for it. But I knew not to say a word. 80s machismo had plenty to reel me in. Professional wrestling, bodybuilding competitions on ESPN, the NFL, and more. 80s music was full of man's men, from the relatively new art forms of rap and hip-hop to the evolving styles of rock and metal. Hip-hop was always just fun to me, but metal had a unique attraction, especially after one music video by one of the greatest rock bands in the world. And I would love to play it for you right now, but lawsuits, so I'll just tell you about it. When I was 11, I saw the video for Wherever I May Roam by Metallica. It was a concert video showing the band performing and traveling and talking to fans and so on. A shot near the end of the video shows the lead singer, James Hetfield, riding in the tour bus. He's wearing a black leather biker jacket and a black leather cowboy hat. He's got long hair and a beard. He smiles at a passing car full of fans and waves to them. I remember seeing that one shot and immediately feeling drawn, called to what I saw. That's a better word than attracted. It called to me. Something about this bearded badass just clicked for me. Many genres of music appeal to me, but rock and metal hit a unique place. Sex and music can be closely connected. Both of them touch your spirit in powerful ways. Remember Elvis Presley and those hips? James Hetfield from Metallica was the first man in leather I was ever attracted to, and definitely not the last. But even then, I knew not to tell a soul about it. That's not just because it seemed taboo, but also because black boys were supposed to listen to rap and hip-hop. Metal was white folks' music. No one I knew was black and into metal, so that gave me yet another thing to hide in my heart. I was carrying a lot of secrets, and I hadn't even started middle school. The stereotypes I had of gayness were effeminate, awkward, and weak, but I was attracted in one form or another to power, muscle, wrestling, leather, metal music, football, action figures. I mean, just imagine all those naive parents keeping their boys away from Barbies when it was He-Man all along. So you can see how misdirected the rage against drag queens really is. I mean, think about it. Drag is an interdisciplinary art form. It combines theater, dance, acting, comedy, costume design, stagecraft, writing, improv, and an immense array of cultural and artistic references. Are those oversized shoulder pads a nod to Joan Crawford? How well is she channeling Cyndi Lauper in her lip sync to Girls Just Want to Have Fun? The punchline to that joke, was that from the Golden Girls or Designing Women? References matter. And when you are a child, you don't have any references. You're too young. So how is a drag performance ever going to transform a child's consciousness? More likely, it's just going to amuse them with its bright colors and wacky behavior. If anything is going to fire up our pubescent little gay minds, it's probably going to be from the most abundant source, mainstream culture. And our minds will fill in the gaps. Instagram is so filled with so many clips, but one clip in particular that's been circulating lately applies here. It's from a 2009 speech by the renowned scholar Dr. Russell Barkley. Here's what he had to say about a child's development at a conference of the Center for ADHD Awareness Canada. Now, this is no substitute for medical advice, of course, but I think it's something parents should hear. And remember, he said this back in 2009.
What we have learned in the last 20 years of research in neuroimaging, behavior genetics, developmental psychology, neuropsychology can be boiled down to this phrase. Your child is born with more than 400 psychological traits that will emerge as they mature, and they have nothing to do with you. So the idea that you are going to engineer personalities and IQ and academic achievement skills and all these other things just isn't true. Your child is not a blank slate on which you get to write. The better view is that your child is a genetic mosaic of your extended family, which means this is a unique combination of the traits that run in your family line. I like the shepherd view. You are a shepherd. You don't design the sheep. The engineering view makes you responsible for everything. Everything that goes right and everything that goes wrong. This is why parents come to us with such guilt, more guilt than we've ever seen in prior generations. Because parents today believe that it's all about them and what they do. And if they don't get it right, or if their child has a disability, they've done something wrong. When in fact the opposite is true. This has nothing to do with your particular brand of parenting. So I would rather that you stop thinking yourself as an engineer and step back and say, I am a shepherd to a unique individual. Shepherds are powerful people. They pick the pastures in which the sheep will graze and develop and grow. They determine whether they're appropriately nourished. They determine whether they're protected from harm. The environment is important, but it doesn't design the sheep. No shepherd is going to turn a sheep into a dog. Ain't going to happen, right?
I cannot think of any parent who would not want to be a good shepherd to their children. Nor can I think of any American who would not want to be a good citizen to their nation. Which brings us back to our role in these cultural debates. I strongly believe that we have a unique opportunity right now to breathe new life into our civic debates. Everyone's focused on winning, and that is why no one wins, because they are not really debates. They're arguments. A debate is a competition. It has a winner, a loser, mutually agreed upon rules, and a clear outcome. You may not like who won, but in a proper debate, you know exactly why they did. But remember what we said about social media. It is designed... You know exactly why they did. But remember what we said about social media. It's designed to go on and on without ending. So how can it be appropriate for a debate? I mean, let's just stop playing this game. And instead, let's focus on something far more fundamental, something more human. Connection. The Nightlight will talk a lot about connection, something we all need, something we often struggle to find. The impact of our actions, our beliefs, and our politics can strengthen, weaken, make or break our connections to those we love. Joe Rogan failed to conduct a good interview of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. mainly because he asked weak questions. I wish I had a chance to ask one question in particular to the candidate. What would your father say? I suspect Senator Kennedy, what would your father say? I suspect Senator Kennedy would not want his child attaching the family name to misinformation and conspiracy theories, even if he makes any valid points at all in his skepticism, and he might. He's feeding an environment of confusion and division. He has failed to denounce the cruel rhetoric aimed at Dr. Peter Hotez. My question to Mr. Kennedy, is that how your father raised you? Is that how you are raising your son? It's a harsh question, I know, but he's a candidate for president. Presidents are leaders, and questioning a candidate's leadership decisions, it's essential. Nothing cuts to the heart of our values like the relationships and connections that mean the most to us. Not our logic, but our loves. The key is to question how a person's words and actions affect the ones they love. As for the people cracking down on the LGBTQ community, I would ask about family connections in a different way. My biggest concern is what you are modeling for your children. One day, your kids are going to be adults. They will reflect on what you taught them or didn't teach them, or what you said to them or did not say, or what you did for them or did not do. And when they realize that you taught them all those wonderful lessons from Sesame Street about love and kindness and friendship and being a good neighbor, and then you ignored all those lessons in your treatment of LGBTQ people, that may be the first time in their lives that your children ever question their trust in you. I can imagine nothing worse happening to a parent. And I fear it is inevitable. Your adult children are going to look at you one day and say, what the hell? I went off to college thinking all this crazy stuff and it cost me friendships and opportunities. It cost me a relationship. Why did you teach me that stuff? And you're going to have a very emotional and painful conversation with your child. Probably a lot of stumbling and fumbling, maybe some yelling, even a few tears. Are you ready for that? If you are 300% galvanized in thinking that keeping your kids away from gay people and trans people is the right thing, ask yourself, when your child grows up to realize the depths of your hypocrisy and intolerance, how will you explain it to them? Why would you give your child any reason to question your love for them or their trust in you? Political power is not worth risking your bond with your child. Political power is not worth risking your family's good name. And if you think it is, I suggest you rehearse your excuses today. Those conversations will come. And for your sake, I hope you're ready. I have spent more than 20 years in journalism. Through it all, I have seen time and time again the power of listening and questioning. Maybe that's our key to dealing with conspiracies, bigotry, and hate. Don't argue logically. They're not being logical, so why should you be? In fact, don't argue at all. Why play their game? Joe Rogan's money ain't no good with me. Instead, act with empathy and offer choices, but always let it be their choice. You can gently, surgically open up their point of view. Don't damage it, but reveal it and ask smart questions. Then let them come to their own realizations about it and act as they see fit. If you attack them, you leave damage, and that gives them something else to focus on besides what you just revealed. Leave them with nothing but legitimate questions and let them deal with the repercussions of their answers. Do it right, and you might leave them feeling very conflicted indeed. So, why not debate RFK Jr.? Why not debate homophobes and transphobes? Simple. Debate is too weak. I want something stronger. I want connection. The mission of the Nightlight is to foster connection. When people connect, anything is possible, including a chance to heal old wounds. There are deep, meaningful bonds that have been broken since at least the 2016 election. I mean, some people skipped holiday dinners or family milestones for the very first time because the political and cultural divisions got too deep. Maybe you went through that yourself. Some of those bonds will never heal. But if there are others that can, I would love to help. But to do that, I need a lot more information. I want to know who's out there working on solving big problems. I want the best practices for engaging with others. And I want to help you demystify the big stories of today. That way you'll have plenty of clear, trustworthy information to use when you're talking with others. Not arguing, talking. If most mainstream media won't do it, except for public media, and social media seems constitutionally incapable of it, then we have to build it ourselves. That work starts tonight. Remember that quote about extremists from Senator Kennedy's book? The evil is not what they say about their cause, but what they say about their opponents. Well, if the evil is in what extremists say about their opponents, then perhaps the virtue lies in what you will say about yours. I'm ready for a new national conversation built on honesty, empathy, and courage. I'm ready for less competition, more connection, less head-to-head, more heart-to-heart. That's what I think. Tell me what you think. How have you handled the choice between debate, discussion, dissection, or disengagement? Share your story with me. What happened? How did you decide what to do? And whether it worked or not, what did you learn from it? Also, I would love your questions on how to engage with people on radioactive issues. Feel free to share examples from your life if you choose. Or if you've got suggestions for me, for people I should talk to on this show, experts or lawmakers or innovators or everyday people, just let me know. Email me. The address is Joshua, Joshua, at nightlightshow, that's all one word, .com. Joshua at nightlightshow.com. You can reach me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'm at Joshua Listening, all one word, no punctuation, at Joshua Listening. And check out the show's website, nightlightshow.com. The Nightlight is a production of Sun Arts Media. Many thanks to my paid subscribers, including the many folks who signed up way before this show debuted. That is a huge vote of confidence, and that support has meant the world to me. Thank you so, so much. Remember, you can find out more and become a paid subscriber, or just follow the show for free online at nightlightshow.com. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app or on YouTube for new episodes. Stay in touch with me by email, Joshua at nightlightshow.com. I'm at Joshua Listening on social media. So, until we meet again, I'm Joshua Johnson. Thank you so much for making time for me, and please keep on shining, because someone, somewhere, needs your light right now.